Hi, third graders, it's Mrs. Ederholm. We are practicing context clues. If you have not watched the video for this lesson, please go back and watch the video on context clues first. If you have, then keep watching. So today, our goal is to use keywords in a passage to help find the word's meaning, meaning we're using the other words around that word to help us figure out what that unknown word means. So our directions are in this orange box right here. Let's go ahead and read them. The first one is read through the passage. So I will do that now. On an ordinary school day, Tom and Mike take the bus home from school. Today, after a discussion, the boys concluded they would walk home from school. After all, it was a beautiful day. The boys were engrossed with baseball cards as they strolled down the street. They were oblivious to the turns they were making. When they did look around them, they were bewildered. The houses on the street did not look familiar. The boys were baffled. Where were they? The boys approached a man painting the front of his house and told them they were lost. The kind man furnished the boys with a map to guide them back home. The map was exceedingly helpful. 20 minutes later, the boys were elated to arrive home, but then they were embarrassed to give their mom an explanation for being so late. She had been anxious when the boys had not arrived home on time. Tom and Mike confessed that they had learned an important lesson. So, read through the passage, check, I've done it. Now the second part says underline the synonym for each word in bold. So, they want us to look, each bolded word, like ordinary, has two words underneath. We have to underline the one that makes the most sense in that sentence. So, if I look at this first one, it says, on an ordinary school day, Tom and Mike take the bus home from school. So, I need to decide, does ordinary mean normal or sunny? Well, I'm thinking that it must mean normal because it probably is pretty usual that they would take the bus home. Like, if you're a bus rider, you're a bus rider, and you're usually a bus rider. So I'm going to underline the word normal because I think ordinary means normal. Okay, I don't think it means sunny. Then it says circle the keywords that helped you. I used the words, not circle, bus, home from school. Those words helped me. Okay? So then it says, check that the word you chose makes sense. So I'm going to reread it. On a normal school day, Tom and Mike take the bus home from school. Does that make sense? Of course. So now I'm going to go on to the next sentence, and I will do that same process with each of these. So today, after a discussion, the boys concluded they would walk home from school. So I need to decide, is discussion, does that mean after a problem or after a talk? Well, I'm going to assume that it means talk, okay? The boys concluded. Does that mean that they would walk home from school? Does that mean that the boys concentrated that they would walk home from school, or the boys decided they would walk home from school? Well, I think it means decided. Concluded would mean decided, and that word actually helps me figure out discussion, right? And they kind of help each other. After all, it was a beautiful day. The boys were engrossed with baseball cards. Does that mean that the boys were tangled with baseball cards or the boys were busy with baseball cards? I'm going to assume that means that they were busy with baseball cards, okay? They were busy. I know that the words baseball cards can help me figure that out because sometimes when you're looking at things like baseball cards or Pokemon cards, they take a lot of attention as they strolled down the street. Does that mean raced or walked? Well, this one's a little bit trickier, but I know if people are busy looking at something, they're probably not racing down the street. They're probably not going too fast. So I would say strolled means walked, okay? And down the street has helped me with that too, because you're probably not going to race down the street. They were oblivious to the turns they were making. Well, oblivious, could it mean unaware or angry? So if they're walking down the street and they're being they're really busy looking at these baseball cards. They're walking slowly. Are they going to be unaware of turns, or are they going to be angry to the turns? Well, angry doesn't make sense. So my answer would be unaware. Okay. Oblivious means unaware. They were not aware. What they did, or when they did look around them, they were bewildered. So this means they finally looked around. Were they thoughtful when they looked around, or were they confused once they looked around? Well, I think it probably means confused because they made many turns, meaning they were somewhere they didn't know. The houses on the street did not look familiar. Familiar, does that mean they did not look known or they did not look different? Well, familiar is something you know if you're familiar with something. So the boys were baffled. Where were they? Baffled. So if they're lost, right, they did not look familiar, would you be determined or would you be confused? I think you'd be confused. Remember, you should be underlining and circling the same things I am right now on your page. You should be in split screen. The boys approached a man painting the front of his house and told him they were lost. The kind man furnished the boys with a map to guide them back home. So we need to figure out, is furnished, does that mean provided or does that mean checked? Well, I can kind of replace the word. The kind man provided the boys with a map. That makes sense. The kind man checked the boys with a map. That doesn't make sense. So my answer here would be provided. And I can tell that because they're getting something, right? Furnished must mean provided. The map was exceedingly helpful. 20 minutes later, the boys were elated to arrive home. Well, exceedingly helpful. If they arrived home, was it not really helpful or was it very helpful? It must mean very helpful if they did arrive home. 20 minutes later, the boys were elated to arrive home. So elated, does that mean saddened or happy? Well, I'm going to assume that means happy because they wanted to go home. That was what they wanted. They wanted something that was helpful. But then they were embarrassed to give their mom an explanation for being so late. So what would they have given their mom? A reason for being so late or a paper for being so late? Did they get a paper that said, I am late? No, they gave their mom a reason. Explanation must mean reason. I can also think that explanation sounds like the word explain, which means that you're giving your reasons. She had been anxious when the boys had not arrived home on time. Does anxious mean delighted or worried? I'm going to assume it means worried because the boys had not arrived home on time. That would make a mom scared. Tom and Mike confessed they had learned an important lesson. If they confessed it, did they yell it or did they admit it? Well, there's no exclamation point or word saying that they are yelling, so I'm going to think it means admitted. And if you have learned an important lesson, you're probably going to say, yes, I learned my lesson. So your page number 1 should look just like this, just like mine. Pause the video now if you need to finish copying it down. All right, so now it's your turn. You are going to do the same thing I just did, but with the next page. Now remember, you're trying to find what those words mean using the other words in the sentence. And remember, you have some directions right here. They are the same as what we did on the other page. I should see that some of the words are underlined. So either they give you 2 options. You're going to underline the option you think is correct. And then I should see that you should circle some of the key words. Okay, go ahead and do this page on your own. For each of those bolded words, underline and circle important words in the sentence that helped you figure them out, and then submit it to Schoology as an assignment. Good luck!